Yo, so guys, welcome back to another video, and this is another basketball reaction, and you're probably going to be noticing you're probably going to be noticing throughout the video, why am I trying to keep my neck straight? I think I've strained something like the lower back of my head or my neck, or in between, and I'm struggling to keep my head up, I'm not going to lie. I'm going to try and persevere. Like, if I keep it still, it's alright, but if I move it, it just hurts very badly. Don't know how it happened, honestly, it just sort of came, but I'm going to try and do videos today. If there's not many videos today, you're going to know why. And I mean, hopefully I can sit through this because it kills. Like, I'm probably going to have to get it checked out, to be honest, because it actually really hurts. But this video is making the case LeBron James by Clayton Crowley, and this has been suggested so much, and like so much in the past few videos. And I think I did a reaction yesterday, and I think I reacted to the wrong video. I thought that video was this one, but it wasn't, so that's my bad. But let's check this out. I'm not going to waffle too much at the beginning because people just want to see the reaction, right? But I mean, I'm guessing this is sort of basing around how he's got to the finals this year. And I think people saying they're making the case fit series is for like making the case for them being the greatest of all time. I think that's what people say, but I'm not too sure. So let's just check this out and see what this video is about.
Basketball is special. The size of the court and the lack of pads or helmets give fans the most intimate experience of a team sport that exists.
Yeah, for sure.
And because of the different styles that basketball
close,
allows for, players develop their own distinct identities and signature styles through their creativity, flair, and athleticism.
Everything,
and although no player succeeds alone, the scoring volume and two-way nature of the sport give individual stars a nearly unprecedented amount of control over the flow and outcome of a game. For this reason, players are constantly compared to their peers and to the legends of the past in order to answer the most hotly contested
sport. That's what sport is. Whenever you have someone who's great, like you're getting it with Giannis now, we've had it with LeBron, and you're still having it with LeBron. I'm guessing in a few years you're going to be having it with people like Zion and like Luka Doncic. I mean, you're already getting it. You're going to be comparing them to greats, and you're not going to be sort of just experiencing them and just watching them and just loving how good they are in general and how they're their own player. But that's just how sport is. It happens with like soccer. It happens with every sport. It's just the nature of humans. They love to compare.
Question in the sport.
And
who's the greatest to ever do
it? You have to say it.
For many, the question is redundant. They believe in only one right answer, their answer. Others might have their own personal stance, but acknowledge one or two alternatives. But I believe that there's much more nuance to the question of greatness and more answers to it than you might think. By my count, there are 8 players in NBA history that have a substantial claim as the GOAT. It's a subjective thing though. I can't give you a definitive answer. All I can do is make the argument. So today, I'll be making the case for LeBron James as the greatest basketball player of all time.
Let's go. And yeah, apparently he's done this with other players as well, so maybe I should check them out if people want that. I'm excited to see this thing, man, because people are suggesting this like crazy.
To begin making the case for LeBron James,
No.
Michael Jordan is the
LeBron
GOAT.
James
isn't
even
built
close.
like that. There's no way. There's no
LeBron
way that he is
isn't
the
the
GOAT.
GOAT.
Get out of
Get
here.
close.
What are you
Really,
talking about?
LeBron?
Delete
You're
this
making a
video
video
about
out of
LeBron
your
being
mind.
the
Get
GOAT.
out of here.
No. And just like that, we've started the LeBron GOAT case off right. Somebody like me makes a video like this, to which a certain segment of the population reacts by getting so mad that they start to pop blood vessels. And that's a really interesting reaction to me. I've made videos about why players like Larry Bird and Tim Duncan are the GOATs. And sure, I get some, "this video is garbage because MJ is the GOAT" comments, but it's mostly been people having a lovely chat about the merits and nuances of those players' careers. I don't expect that to be the case today. But why? Why is it that LeBron, more than any other player, gets Jordan truthers so defensive? If you are one of those volatile Jordan defenders and you're racing to the comments right now, I know that there's nothing I can do to stop you. But for the rest of you, please, just humor me, even if you think Jordan's the GOAT. Hear what I have to say. We all still love basketball. We can all still be friends. When LeBron James was a freshman at St. Vincent St. Mary's High School in Akron, Ohio, he posted per-game averages of 18 points, 6 rebounds, and 3 assists. The Irish went undefeated 27-0, won the state championship, and James was named the state tournament MVP. And just like that, the final year of anonymity for LeBron James was over. In the summer, between his freshman and sophomore years, James's play on the AAU circuit caught the eyes of every scout he encountered. Word began to spread far and wide about the man-child from Akron, Ohio. In his sophomore season, he saw an increase in every box score figure. His team started playing home games at the University of Akron's arena in order to seat the thousands of spectators.
Wow.
His team lost one game all year and won the state championship again. He became the first sophomore ever named to USA Today's All-USA First Team. He had officially entered the territory of phenom. Scouts were infatuated with James for a number of reasons. He had every measurable you could want out of a 16-year-old. Tall, strong, good wingspan, off-the-charts athleticism. But he also had superb instincts, a natural enthusiasm for the game, an unselfish play style, preternatural passing abilities, and strong leadership qualities. Which is why, in his junior year, Sports Illustrated put LeBron on its cover. Now, this cover didn't single-handedly trigger the outrageous expectations of LeBron James, but it certainly helped. The cover acknowledged James's unprecedented talent at such an early stage, while alluding to the expectations, hopes, and wonders that such an unbelievable talent would have to bear.
It's crazy because that could give you a lot of pressure, especially as like a 15, 16-year-old. Like, to be on Sports Illustrated, which from my knowledge is one of the biggest sort of sports magazines in the US. I'm pretty sure it's the biggest, to be honest. And as a kid, you're doing that. It's going to amount the pressure, but if you're up for that pressure, you just know you're going to make it, man. And he obviously did. To say that he made it is the least.
In his junior year, James and the Irish would play their home games almost exclusively at the University of Akron's arena. ESPN2 began broadcasting their matchups to the country, and Time Warner Cable started selling his games on pay-per-view for $7.95 a pop.
So he had that pull as a kid.
The hype was substantiated by more incredible play from James, who improved from year to year. As a junior, he was named to a second All-USA First Team and became the first junior to ever be named the Gatorade National Player of the Year. As a senior, he won a second National Player of the Year award and was named to an unheard-of third All-USA First Team. James's junior year remains the turning point of his celebrity. It was then that he went from highly touted young prospect to inheritor of the sport of basketball. And that's the thing. We as sports fans fetishize potential. The allure of the future is endless. If a player has potential, they can be anything. It hasn't happened yet, so it's still technically possible, no matter how outrageous the expectation may be. But then if they don't succeed, we label them as failures, busts. Couldn't do it, didn't pan out. Never mind the fact that we were the ones who set the expectations to begin with. Promise is a double-edged sword,
true,
and this was promise like no other. LeBron was the first real athletic prodigy of the internet era. It was the first time that the country could whip itself up into this kind of frenzy about the next big athlete in the uber-commercialized post-Jordan NBA. These days, young prospects in every sport get enough smoke blown up their asses to host a barbecue, with top 100 recruiting lists and the videos with titles calling any prospect who hits back-to-back threes the next Steph Curry. It's too much to say that it started with LeBron, but he was undoubtedly the initial product of the hype machine we're familiar with today. He was so good at such a young age, and so many people saw him and talked about him and heard about him that the stakes were clear. LeBron James could not be a 6-time NBA All-Star. He couldn't win 1 or 2 MVPs. He couldn't be the next Tracy McGrady or the next Vince Carter. He had to be the face of the league and go down in history as one of, if not the, greatest basketball players of all time. In the Sports Illustrated article, the one that called him the chosen one, a label that he embraced by having it tattooed on his back, writer Grant Wall recognized the absurdity of asking if a 17-year-old who still couldn't buy cigarettes was really the heir to the next generation of basketball. But after seeing LeBron and talking to him, Wall concedes that it was indeed the right question. Was it ever? In the 2004 NBA Draft, LeBron James was the first overall selection by his hometown Cleveland Cavaliers. He was selected ahead of college standout Chris Bosh, Dwayne Wade, who had just led Marquette to the Final Four and was named an All...
Wait, so Dwayne Wade and LeBron were drafted in the same year? See, I find that crazy because Dwayne Wade obviously retired recently, and you still... And he's a great of the NBA. He's one of the greats of the NBA. The fact that he was so good and he retired I'm guessing he's around the same age as LeBron, is wild to me because LeBron is still balling out at 35, and that's when you truly realise how much of a great and how much of like just an insane specimen he is. How he can continue playing at such a high level at so old. Like, he's probably got some crazy genetic that just allows him to play like just how he's sort of defying the laws of physics in a sense. How he's still playing such a high level at such an age.
American, college basketball's player of the year, TJ Ford, and Carmelo Anthony, who had just led Syracuse to an NCAA championship.
Big time
LeBron,
players, you know.
Out of high school, went ahead of all of them with the weight of a franchise, a city, and
wild.
Perhaps a league on his 18-year-old shoulders. As the most anticipated basketball player since Lou Alcindor, LeBron James could not falter. What if he'd failed? What if the $100 million shoe deals and the celebrity and the fame had been too much too soon? And honestly, how wasn't it? How did LeBron not mess it all up? I don't know, but he didn't. And I'd be remiss if I didn't mention the incredible things that he's done since with his platform as the country's most famous athlete. He's spurred and advocated social change, especially in the realm of civil rights, from Trayvon Martin's shooting to the Black Lives Matter movement. He has been an indispensable source of goodwill and good fortune for his community. He's been the most important focal point in the era of player empowerment in the NBA. He didn't just defy the odds by not becoming a complete nutcase. He has leveraged his position, set an incredible example, and has been one of the best role models that any child or parent could ever ask for. He's still playing, which means that all of these accolades are subject to change, and likely will. But the only assumptions I'll be making are that LeBron finished within at least the top 5 of MVP voting this year and made first team All-NBA, which means he has been named to 13 All-NBA first teams and 16 total All-NBA teams.
That is nuts,
both
man.
Records, demonstrating his unbelievably prolonged reign.
Okay, that actually made me move my head. That actually hurt. Bro, look at this
Which
play.
Means he has been named to 13
I've ever seen
All-NBA
that
first
in my
teams
life.
and 16 total All-NBA teams. Both records demonstrating
Oh
his
my God.
unbelievably prolonged reign over the sport. He's won 4 MVPs in 5 years, a feat only matched by Bill Russell, and finished in the top 5 of MVP voting in all but 3 of his 17 seasons. He's been selected to 16 All-Star games, 6 All-Defensive teams, and stands at or near the top of multiple all-time statistical leaderboards that demonstrate his all-around proficiency, from playoff points scored to career assists.
This one, man.
He has achieved such a universal and unique statistical position for a number of reasons. Namely among them, LeBron James is the best basketball player of all time. When James Naismith nailed a peach basket to a wall in a gym in Massachusetts, there was no way he could have ever imagined the game as it is today. And there is no way, not in his wildest dreams, that he could have ever imagined an athlete like LeBron. The guy is 6'8", 260, built like Karl Malone, passes like Larry Bird, jumps like Michael, and surveys the court like Magic Johnson. He's not the strongest or the fastest, but he's faster than the strongest and stronger than the fastest. He has a cocktail of cerebral perception and hand-eye coordination that has made him one of the premier passers in league history. He has a 7-foot wingspan, a lightning-quick first step, supernatural anticipation, and an IQ on both ends of the court that comes from the brain of basketball's Da Vinci. It would be enough if LeBron had just built a name and career for himself thanks to his prodigious natural talents. But he worked diligently, year in and year out, to improve himself as a basketball player. He received criticism for not using his Herculean frame to lock down opponents. And so, he became a lethal defender and was twice the runner-up for Defensive Player of the Year. Opponents would exploit James's lack of post-game by assigning him smaller, quicker defenders. He spent the summer with Hakeem Olajuwon and became a back-down bully. To better space the floor and accommodate the modern style of basketball, he needed to improve his streaky jump shot. He became a master of efficiency, and at his best was a 40% three-point shooter. There is no aspect of basketball that LeBron James is not superb at. It's a silly hypothetical, but I think it serves my point to say that a team of 5 LeBrons would beat a team of 5 of anybody else.
Oh, I love that one so much.
Not
makes his own
teammate. Never
teammate.
Stopped adding to it, and he's been adding to it for an insanely long time. He's been probably the best basketball player in the world since 2008 or 2009. And if your life came down to one game, he's still one of the first calls you'd make at age 35 in year 17. He can do
100%.
anything. does everything, and he's never had a truly significant injury. It wasn't until 2019 that he missed a substantial amount of time because of a groin injury. And aside from some issues with cramps and some occasional back trouble, LeBron has never been a liability in that department. He has the 4th highest scoring average in NBA history, and with the way basketball is played today, he can defend point guards and centers alike. Add all of that to a tireless work ethic, an unselfish play style, and a penchant for big moments, and you get the queen of the chessboard. When it comes to playing basketball, he is the best at it. Hold on, I think I hear something. It's the sound of Skip Bayless's acolytes losing their shit in my comment section. Best player ever. Big moments? No way. LeBron's terrible in the clutch. He hates taking the last shot. He doesn't have the killer instinct. He doesn't have what it takes to come through in crunch time. I don't know where this got started or how it's been able to persist, but that sentiment is just factually untrue. There is an overwhelming amount of evidence to support LeBron's clutch ability and killer instinct. There's statistics that show that James is clutch. Evidence, analytics, stuff made by people who know how to do math and use calculators and stuff. And if you don't believe them because they're nerds and because basketball isn't just about numbers, then just look at the dude's results. He's hit clutch shots in the regular season.
For the jumper for the win.
Bang.
LeBron. And got it. Banks it in. The three. Think somebody else beat you. Three on the way. He got it. LeBron.
Jesus Christ.
And he's hit clutch shots in the playoffs.
James for the win. It's gone. 3 seconds to go. Throws up the
Oh, that shot is dirty, man.
And with 3 seconds left, Cleveland triggers in. James, 2 seconds, 1 second for the win.
Don't tell me that he can't win games, or doesn't have a killer instinct, or isn't clutch, or any of that shit. He spent a lot of time playing in the biggest games too, in an absolutely loaded league. In the playoffs, he has faced Gilbert Arenas, Chauncey Billups, Tim Duncan, Tony Parker, Manu Ginobili, Kawhi Leonard, James Harden, Russell Westbrook, Kevin Durant, Ray Allen, Paul Pierce, Kevin Garnett, Dirk Nowitzki, Dwight Howard, Derrick Rose, Al Horford and Paul Millsap, Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, Draymond Green, DeMar DeRozan and Kyle Lowry, Paul George, Victor Oladipo, Damian Lillard, and so on.
God damn.
And the players he's faced haven't just been eye-popping. He's lined up against some of the vaunted teams and franchises in NBA lore.
the
He played the Spurs, the most
Spurs as
successful
well.
post-Jordan franchise in basketball, 3 times in the finals. And then he faces the Warriors in 4 straight finals. Meanwhile, LeBron's teams always seem to be overachievers. In his first 7 seasons in Cleveland, his best teammate by a mile was Mo Williams. Yeah, one-time All-Star, Mo Williams. The Cavs front office can't be faulted for not trying to get LeBron help, but they certainly deserve some criticism for failing to actually get him help. Anderson Varejao, Zydrunas Ilgauskas, Larry Hughes, Drew Gooden, Eric Snow, Old Shaq, Ben Wallace's corpse. None of them were really bona fide quality contributors who, in the roles they were supposed to fill, could compete and win a championship against the Spurs or the Celtics. The Cavs' entire philosophy during his first stint in the land was, he's so damn good, we'll just bank on him putting up ungodly numbers and carrying us to a win every single night. Which he usually somehow did. And when he left, look at how the Cavs floundered. From a league-high 61 wins to 19, the second worst record in the league. Nothing exemplified the plight of LeBron more than Game 5 of the 2007 Eastern Conference Finals. With the series tied at 2 games apiece, LeBron and the Cavs were trying to pull off an upset against the former champion Detroit Pistons nucleus on their home court. With around 3 minutes remaining in the 4th quarter and the Cavs down 7, LeBron got fouled on a drive, and so began one of the most impressive stretches of basketball ever played in any series by any player. To say that James, at age 22, proceeded to take over the game feels like an undersell. He scored 29 of the Cavs' final 30 points, including 25 in a row. He was transcendent, finishing with 48 points after 2 overtimes and the game-winning layup. It was a performance for the ages, but it was also almost entirely necessary. When the Cavs played the Spurs in the finals that year, they lost because a 22-year-old LeBron couldn't beat the Pop, Parker, Manu, Duncan Spurs.
See, I didn't realise this. Like, I knew he left the Cavs because he wanted to win the championship, right? But, like, I didn't realise they were this reliant on someone so young. Like, if you really think about it, if LeBron was at someone, like, at the start of his career, if he was at somewhere, like, maybe not Spurs because they had, like, all those players, but, like, I don't know, one of the sort of the second or third sort of best teams around that sort of era. Maybe like the Mavs, maybe. So I know they were pretty decent like around that sort of time. Maybe he would have won like more, like because obviously you saw the Cavs record the year after he left, and God, you can see the difference that they had one of the best records to the second worst, or I think they're the best record to the second worst in the space of a year because you've lost one player. That makes you realise just how important he was. Maybe if he was at a better team and he had sort of players around him that could help him, maybe he probably would have had like 5, 6, 7 like championships at this point. So it is important that you see that. You see sort of like you just sort of look at as to why maybe he doesn't have the same amount compared to MJ. It is an important point. I do like how he said that.
Shame on him. So is there any surprise that he wanted to go to a real team like Miami, where he didn't have to do everything? And make no mistake, it's not like he didn't still have his Atlas moments with the Heat. Game 6 of the 2012 Eastern Conference Finals. The Heat are down 3-2, coming off of the decision in the 2011 Finals. LeBron and the Heat were under as big of a magnifying glass as you can get. In Boston, the Celtics had the chance to send the LeBron, Wade, Bosh Heat out by the historical wayside as a catastrophic failure. But then LeBron put on this
that
face.
Meme. I love that face so much.
Celtics apart. He had
Bitch, I'm
30
coming
points in
back.
the first half. In classic LeBron fashion, he was everywhere doing everything. He sucked the oxygen out of the arena and never gave it back, coming through with an all-time performance in maybe the most important game of his career. 2013 Finals, Games 6 and 7, leading the fourth quarter
Gets the
charge
Spurs
in Game
again.
6, hitting a crucial 3 with 20 seconds left to set up Ray Allen's legendary shot.
Back out to James, another three. It's good. James knocks it down.
37, 12, and 4, plus the series icing jumper in Game 7.
Tim Duncan showing James pulls up, puts it in, 4-point lead. 35 for LeBron James.
The games, series, and runs that he's had will
I
someday
love that
fill
one
their
so
own
much.
multi-part documentary. We'll talk about a few more later, but the overall theme is undeniable. LeBron has lived in the playoffs and thrived under the brightest of lights, despite the unique brand of scrutiny, doubt, and criticism that is his. But none of that matters to you because of 3 things. The sources of so much of that doubt and criticism. The 2010 Eastern Conference semifinals, the decision, and the 2011 finals. All 3 events happened within the span of about 400 days. It started with the second round of the 2010 playoffs, Boston versus Cleveland. Despite having the best record in the league, the Cavs lost in 6 to the Pierce, KG, Ray Allen Celtics.
Which is an
LeBron's
elite
numbers look
squad, isn't
okay,
it?
but if you remember watching at the time, or you go back now and watch, you can tell that LeBron's just not there. He's checked out. No aggression, no urgency, stretches of total detachment. He was a no-show, and no one still knows definitively why, but salacious rumors persist that you can look up for yourself. Whatever the reason, the loss amped the noise around LeBron up to new levels. He can't do it. He doesn't have it. The basketball world prepared itself for one of the most consequential free agent decisions ever. What they got was the decision, a 1-hour nationally televised special. LeBron was
Nationally
going to announce his
televised? What?
decision on live TV.
What the hell? That is so random. I mean, if this happened like in today's era, this would destroy the internet. Maybe it did back then. Obviously, I was too young to really know whether it did or not. But I ain't ever seen anything like this before.
How could this go wrong?
The answer to the question everybody wants to know. LeBron, what's your decision?
In this fall, man, this is very tough. In this fall, I'm going to take my talents to South Beach and join the Miami Heat.
The best basketball player in the world dumped his hometown team the most tortured sports city in America, live on television to join a super team with Dwayne Wade and Chris Bosh.
He
had
was
quit on
hated,
Cleveland in the
wasn't he?
playoffs and followed it up with the mother of all backstabs. The decision remains perhaps the single meanest thing an athlete has ever done to their franchise. It was mindless, shallow, insulting, and egotistical in a profound way. LeBron quickly went from one of the most popular and celebrated athletes in the country to its most hated. Cavs owner Dan Gilbert published an infamous letter tearing James apart. Fans burned his jersey in the streets. Conversations about how LeBron was wired and whether he could be the guy flooded the airwaves. But the funny thing was, I don't think anyone really faulted him for wanting out of Cleveland. It was clear that he didn't get the help that a superstar needs in order to capitalize on their talents. The criticism was first and foremost with the execution, doing it in a self-aggrandizing live TV special. The criticism quickly turned into nonsensical, inane cliches and false narratives. The same LeBron that was getting praised for his ability to cultivate camaraderie and success on abhorrent teams was now being criticized for not making his teammates fear him, whatever that means. Was the decision the dumbest thing LeBron
That
could
part
have
is
done?
the craziest thing I've
Yes.
seen, man.
Was it a knife in the back of the community that had supported him as he ascended from chosen one to superstar? Yes. Was most of this criticism of his mental makeup and desire to win baseless and spiteful? Also, yes. But it probably didn't feel that way for a lot of NBA fans at the time. They hated him. He had quit on and betrayed his team. So when the Heat lost the 2011 finals, the hate boners raged in full force. And the Heat didn't just lose because the Mavs were better. They lost because LeBron choked. His scoring average plummeted to 17 points a game, down from 26 during the regular season. And of those 17 points a game, only 3 came during the fourth quarter, which is especially damning considering how tight the series was. James turned himself into public enemy number 1, promised a jewelry box's worth of rings, and when the world was watching, completely flopped. There are no excuses. I can't tell you actually LeBron played really well, or that his team let him down. He sucked, he let them down, and they lost. It's a fact. Should it define him forever? No, because if we take a trip into yesteryear, we can look at a young point guard on the Los Angeles Lakers in the 1984 finals by the name of Earvin Magic Johnson. The series was the first championship meeting between Larry Bird and Magic since their record-breaking collegiate showdown. The two were now the faces of a surging NBA, revitalized thanks to their mastery and rivalry. What did Magic do? He choked. Pretty hard. In Game 2, he dribbled out the final 11 seconds in regulation of a tied game without putting up a shot. The Lakers lost in overtime. In Game 4, Magic
fuck
had
was
his
he
pass
doing there?
picked off with 4 seconds left in regulation of a tied game. Then in overtime, missed both free throws with 35 seconds left, with the score tied again. The Lakers lost. In Game 7, Magic turned the ball over twice in the final 90 seconds of a tightly contested game. The Lakers lost. Basketball writers were ruthless and cutting. The fact was, he didn't have what it took to come through in the big moments, despite previous evidence to the contrary. And that's not how we remember Magic Johnson. We remember him as a player who came through in big games, had big performances, and who you wanted to have the ball when the game got close. Could it be because he led the Lakers to 3 championships after his '84 meltdown? So why is it that some people's opinions on LeBron James haven't changed in the last 9 years? How were 3 championships and 7 more consecutive finals not some sort of redemption? Because of this right here, the Magic Bullet, 3-6 in finals series. Not that he's won 3 championships, or that he's made 9 finals, or that he's spent almost the entire decade of the 2010s playing June basketball. It's that he's made it 9 times and lost 6 times. Would it be better if he were 3-0 or 3-3? It is not a meaningful or insightful conversation in any capacity to boil down a player's entire career, his contributions, strengths, weaknesses, and subtleties, to just his record in the NBA Finals. How is it that making it to the finals and losing is worse than not making it at all? If you take the time to actually look at how he ended up in those series and what he actually did in them, I have no idea how you could misconstrue his finals performances as a hindrance to his case. We talked about 07, 11, 12, and 13. Of those four, the first was a loss to a team with an actual roster and head coach. The second was a loss that can be pinned entirely on James. And the last two were victories. In 2014, the Spurs played absolutely divine basketball. You cannot play the game better. LeBron and Chris Bosh were the only players on the roster who showed up. Nobody else, either because of age or mileage, could handle the physical toll of a fourth straight finals. LeBron led the Heat in every stat but blocks. He averaged 28, 7, and 4 while shooting 57, 51, 79 splits. As Mike Tyson said to Sports Illustrated, the Spurs won because they deserved to, not because of what LeBron didn't do. You're out of your mind if you think that the 2015 finals is a black mark on LeBron's legacy. The Cavs lost Kevin Love in the first round and Kyrie Irving in Game 1 of the finals against the Warriors. But LeBron was so supremely impressive that Cleveland actually had a prayer of winning the series, which garnered him finals MVP votes despite being on the losing team. His averages were unreal, and Andre Iguodala won the award specifically because he kept LeBron from doing more damage. In 2017, after a super weird regular season, the Cavs flipped the switch and cruised to the finals against the new-look Warriors with Kevin Durant. LeBron became the first player to average a triple-double in the finals, but the Cavs lost in 5, keeping the Warriors from sweeping their way through the entire playoffs. In 2018, without Kyrie, LeBron had a run that was eerily similar to his 2007 streak. Game winners, crazy numbers, Game 7s, the whole thing. The culmination of the run happened in Game 1 of the finals, when LeBron scored an earth-shattering 51 points, giving the Cavs a chance to take a 1-0 lead in the series. And then this happened.
Rebound goes to the Cavs. J.R. Smith brings it back
Oh, this fucking J.R. Smith moment.
For the past
oh
13 years in a row, every team that LeBron James has played on has been in contention to win the championship, regardless of the roster around him. We're not going to play the what-if game, but he's proven that he doesn't need the league's all-time leading scorer as a teammate or the Zen Master as a coach. He also doesn't need time off between finals. It took him 8 straight finals before he finally wore down. Give him any coach, give him any teammates, and by the sheer brilliance of his play, your team is now a championship contender. And I don't have to make the argument that 3 rings is more than 5 or 6 or 11, because that's not how we evaluate these players. We don't just look at ring totals, otherwise Robert Horry would be on Mount Rushmore. Yes, it's all about winning, but it's really not. We try to synthesize things like play style, competition, success, achievements, accolades, and the like into a more cohesive and complete picture. Just asking, did they win, when trying to argue for the greatest basketball player of all time is the wrong question, because, you know, it's a team sport. The better question to ask is which player gave their team the best chance to win? Who meant the most to their teams? And the answer to that question is LeBron James. Is there any better example of this than the 2016 finals? What other player in that situation would have been able to do what LeBron did? He didn't try to will his team to victory by just jacking up shots. He picked his spots perfectly, got his teammates involved, and inspired a belief that they could win despite the odds. The series is the perfect testimony to the value of LeBron James. They were facing the 73-9 Warriors, the best record in NBA history, single-digit losses in an 82-game season. Cap it off with a title, and they instantly have a claim as the best basketball team ever. And after the first 4 games of the series, they have a 3-1 lead. No team in that position had ever lost.
I'm getting goosebumps,
That
you know.
lead in that series has proven throughout history to be insurmountable. Game 5. In Oakland, Kyrie shoots 70% from the floor to rack up 41 points. LeBron matches him with 41 of his own, plus 16 rebounds and 7 assists. Tristan Thompson is the only other Cavalier in double digits. Game 6 in Cleveland, LeBron spearheads a blowout with another 41-point performance, with 8 rebounds and 11 assists to go along with it. The momentum of the series has palpably shifted. Game 7 had legacy, bursting at its seams. Something historic was going to happen, no matter how the game ended. Either the Warriors were about to cap off the most successful basketball season ever, or the Cavs were going to do the unthinkable. A 3-1 comeback, their first franchise title, Cleveland's first championship in 52 years. All made possible
The
by
pressure
LeBron
and
James.
everything,
The Cleveland
man.
win in Game 7 represented the single most significant feat that any player has ever achieved. The most anticipated high school basketball player in a lifetime, who became the chosen one 45 minutes away from the team that would draft him, who took that team to brand new heights, who broke that city's heart in an astonishing way, came back to try to make things right, and was now one game away from fulfilling his promise in an unprecedented comeback against a record-breaking opponent. He isn't Michael
my
Jordan.
God.
Don't expect him to be. He's not Magic Johnson either. He's not Larry Bird or Bill Russell or Wilt Chamberlain. He's LeBron James, the most valuable basketball player ever. The most complete basketball player who's ever lived. The greatest basketball player of all time.
What a video, man. I was getting mad goosebumps at the end of that. Oh my fucking God. Well, I really do appreciate you guys suggesting this. Maybe the MJ one should be next because it's only fair to get to MJ as well, but fuck me. What a video, man. What a video. Thank you guys for suggesting that. Now I understand why. So today I'll be making the case for making the case as the most entertaining and fair basketball GOAT series of all time. Whether he is your GOAT or not, it's goddamn refreshing to see everyone sharing and respecting the comments. And you look at this, you look at the like to dislike ratio, it's actually quite good because usually when it comes to like LeBron and MJ comparisons, people like get triggered and they'll like dislike videos and just things like that. But it's good to see this. Maybe people are finally realising just learn to appreciate him. Him and MJ are both just ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous. And I don't think you'll truly ever be able to prove who is the GOAT. That's my personal opinion. But just appreciate what they've both done individually. Like LeBron's still going. You never know. Like he could get his 4th ring and maybe more. You never know. Like the Lakers, they're looking good. And it's just like, man, just learn to appreciate what he's done. If he was at better teams, and maybe you shouldn't say that because you shouldn't always rely on the best teams. But like from his Cavs, sort of, especially the first time, it was literally just him. And the fact that he was still doing bits with them goes to show how crazy he really was. I believe LeBron is the most criticised and over-analysed player of all time. They've been a spotlight on this man's career since he was 16 and he's the GOAT for not going insane. Yeah, man. I mean, I can't imagine that sort of pressure at that such a young age. People get so bent out of shape about LeBron because he actually gives NBA a run unlike the rest. That's a very good point. That's a good point. That's it. We need a making the case for Robert Horry. But yeah, hopefully you guys enjoyed this reaction. There's definitely more on the way. Maybe I should do more on this little series that he does because it seems really interesting. But yeah, hope you guys enjoyed. Until next time, like, subscribe.